Welcome back to 9 to Noon from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. And this is the X's and O's portion of the equation to finalize festivities. And joining us is Minnesota Vikings General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He's in his third year as General Manager for the Minnesota Vikings. And, wow. Before we get into festivities, wow. The Rams just traded for Max Crosby. I'm just kidding. I'll loosen things up here a little bit.
You got to.
Which camera, Curly? Hey.
Yeah.
I'm just playing with you. All right, 3-2. We do talkbacks on Tuesdays where, like, when Kevin O'Connell joins for X's and O's, we'll have some fan inclusion for, like, up to 30 seconds. And the person who did the talkback today to the free iHeartRadio app actually gets into, like, the first thing I was going to bring up, and here it is.
Crazy! You've been doing a really good job. This is I Bleed Purple Guy's son guy from Burnsville. I'm a diehard. I bleed purple, baby. My question for you, though, is what's the difference? What did you see in Will Reichard out of other kickers that made you draft him when you drafted him? You know, what was the it factor? Because I think you nailed that one. Keep it going. You're bringing us to the promised land.
They're all wound up. No. I mean, I know we're off a loss here. It's still 5-1. It has a wonderful feel to it. And the kicker, I mean, seriously, think the Houston Texans game. 58-yard field goal. I mean, this had to make you smile. He hits the upright, and it's the metallic object that moves, not the football. That's how strong his leg is. Yep. Will Reichard, and good morning.
Incredibly talented. I think back to the process in drafting him, and that's really an example of how we do things in this building. It started with our great scouts who identified him at Alabama, gave us great character, told us about the person, but also the good player. We have some quantitative people who really do a great job of contextualizing performance. So field goal kicking is one of those things you can be pretty specific about accuracy relative to how hard what he was asked to do, whether 50-yarders or 40-yarders in conditions or whatever. So we have some pretty good metrics like that, which narrowed him down to be in the top 3. But it's that last piece that you care about a lot. And me and Had have a great reputation together, just making moves together. I think he's one of the bright stars in this league. And I'll never forget him telling me this story about at the Combine. And they were having a kicking competition. Now, I'm not going to tell you the full story. I'll leave that to us. But what he told me about that story is what I always think great kicker should have. It's like a closer in baseball. I don't know if you were watching the ALCS. I have a close friend who works for the Guardians, and you're watching Clase come out of the bullpen. You ever think about that, working out as a closer? It's all this crazy stuff. There's bases loaded. All these people are yelling, and you got to go up there and throw strikes. And I think that's the same mentality of a kicker, right? That's not normal. No. That is not a normal person who can operate in those things. And the story that Hat told me made me confident that this is the type of person that can operate under those conditions. So we really bet on the performance, but also the person. Our scouts, in addition, right before the draft, they get to sell me on certain things that they want us to do in the draft. And he was one of the people they picked. You know, imagine a personnel department picking a field goal kicker.
Right.
And the whole building was excited to bring this guy in. And I know we took him. You know, everybody wasn't sure that who's the best guy, but we're really happy with Will. He's played for Nick Saban. Obviously, he's been around it. He knows what championship standards are like. So we're just really thrilled to have him.
Right here with that explanation. Holy cow, that was great, because there are tentacles to it that I don't think we have enough time to get into. But the relief pitcher part, I love that analogy, and I'm going to try to take it a step farther, and we're going to go back to London. And I don't know what Nick Mullins has coursing through his veins. Seriously, I mean, that was a relief pitcher moment.
Yep.
You got to come in for one play. I think it went 24 or 29, and it's not the first time I've seen it. So therefore, we have past performances here. We have lines. We have equity. And he comes in, and it's a dime. Of course, we're going to throw, with Mullins, and we're like defenses would think run, but not with this. In a truncated situation, that's like a relief pitcher. I said it to him in the locker room after the game. I'm like, my man, that was like bottom of the 8th, 2 outs, and you got to strike somebody out to hold everything together. And it's not the first time he's done it. Mullins has some relief pitcher to him, too.
No question. I think it's a perfect example. And we talk a lot about self-belief and confidence and what that looks like. And it looks different for a lot of people. I've known Nick a long time in this league, and I saw his self-belief in San Francisco when he was on the practice squad trying to show that he could play in this league and all the hours he put into it. That ultimately comes from self-belief. You don't put in hours into something if you don't think there's going to be something on the other end of it. So he's wired that way. You look in his eyes, he's ready for the moment always. That's just who he is, and that's one of the things we love about him as a quarterback.
Now the NFL trading deadline is a couple of weeks away, but the reason I bring that up is because there are undoubtedly for you, your staff, and the scouts and everything, or personnel, it's different this time of the year than it will be in 3 weeks. And the reason I bring it up is to tie it to the coaches, because this is the Thursday night football week. All right, now that had some bloodbath to it on Sunday. I mean, it was a very physical game, took a long time, very emotional. So, like, from a coaching standpoint, what do you observe on the second floor or throughout the building that is different this week for O'Connell and the staff?
Yeah, it's just incredibly truncated. It demands efficiency. Obviously, we try to be efficient in everything we do, but there's no fluff. You know, Kevin and I, we love sitting talking about the game for an hour and a half, whatever it is. It's a little quicker, right? It's here are the few bullet points. With his staff, you know, he's got great people on his staff who came here after the game. So maybe you're home with your family. They come here to start loading. Just the people who do the work on the back end that we don't know about, the unsung heroes per se.
Yep.
So a lot of that happens this week, where they're not sleeping too much, but they're trying to truncate a 7-day process into 4. Just incredible how they do it, and we think we have a competitive advantage with our health and performance group. Tyler and his staff do an incredible job getting guys turned over. We think we'll show up the fresher team always, and that's how we're wired to be. So just a lot of people who do that and trying to give us an advantage on game day.
Now, Kwesi, the fan has learned, Kevin O'Connell and some members of his staff et al. Have won a Super Bowl with Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams, the next opponent. So after 7 years working with the San Francisco 49ers, how did you feel into your first one against the 49ers last year? It has to be different than just another game.
It is. It's a tough one because, you know, you talk about, I'll speak to my experience. You know, there's a people that you use the term love, but there's a lot of people in that building that I love and genuinely care about what happens to their families, what happens to them. So, you know, there's always some part of me that deep down will root for them when they're not playing the Vikings, when we're not in the playoffs. You know, that's a team that I want to do well, just for their organization, just for what they've meant to my life. But you know, we all get to this sport at the highest level because we're competitors at the end of the day. So when you see somebody across the line from you, you're trying to win, we'll dap up after the game. I'll tell you I love you after the game. I'll tell you we'll get a drink at the combine after the game. But in between the lines, and that's how these players are. That's one of the things I appreciate so much about these players. You know, between the lines, they play a sport that is, you know, physical, emotional. After the game, they trade jerseys. They talk about family, college relationships, and things like that. I think that's one of the coolest things about humanity exhibited on a football field.
Agreed. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, via X's and O's. And we mentioned it earlier, the NFL trade deadline's a couple of weeks from today. And kind of as the staff situation would go, you and your staff, like, what's different now than, say, 3 weeks from now? You know, because the deadline's 2 weeks away.
I think the difference won't be in terms of the level of work. I think there'll be less curveballs from their boss. Just, you know, as I get names, I got to fire them to my staff. And, hey, is this somebody we should consider? What would be the role? What would be the responsibility, compensation, all those things? Those are quickly evolving conversations that I throw at them. But so those things will be removed 3 weeks from now.
So when you say you get names, is that like general managers calling you?
Yeah, we talk.
Hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah, we talk to each other. You know, certain people are cagier than others. Certain people just, you know, have open, honest conversations about. Look, it's never that, you know, you want to move a certain player, but sometimes there are opportunities that work for both sides, and you know, you try and be collaborative. I know every decision we've made here, I speak with the agents of the player maybe involved. You know, you're trying to find win-wins for everybody involved. But we think we have a great place here, so we try and keep the most players we can here, and then we'll see on the margins, can we find places to upgrade.
How hard do losses hit you?
You know, in the day-to-day, I think it's my job to be the mean reverter, and what I mean by that is when everybody's high, it's almost my job to, hey, we were 3 plays away from losing that game. And then when everybody's down, it's my job to point out the 3 plays away to make everybody. So I try,
mean reverter.
Yeah, I
like
don't know.
ascension
Sorry.
and descension.
Yeah.
Or descending, reverted. Wow.
I gotta stay in the middle.
I love that.
That's kind of just from my background. And you want to get emotional as a trader, as a decision maker. That's not a good thing to do. You're always just waiting for, you know, believing in your process. I believe in this team. We put a lot into it. I believe in our coaching staff. So losses are just opportunities to get better and learn. If you watch from that game, I mean, you saw it. That's a heavyweight title bout with 2 great teams, 2 great cultures. And that's how those games look. I've been in those games before, and you lose them and they hurt. But there's also a positive from that is because you're in that game and you're in that title fight. You're just, how do I land one more punch so the judge gives me the ruling at the end, and that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, well, let's land the plane on this portion of the equation by asking this: is it, with your role, with your job, general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, is it difficult leaving work at the facility? I mean, especially as a husband, as a father, and soon to be a father of a second child.
Yep.
And when I say leave it at the facility, I'm talking about the voluminous nature of it. Because, I mean, blessed with this role, that phone might ring at 11 in the evening, and you got to have it next to you. And you have people within your covenant who I would imagine understand that. So it's not acquiescing, it's accepting. But with a child and one on the way and a wife, the balance.
It's hard. I don't want to sit here and say I've got it figured out. But I am going to take my wife to Leon Bridges tonight because I need to be a good husband.
That nice eyebrows, hit that dinner.
Great. I love Leon. Great, incredible.
Falsetto, I meant.
Oh, man.
He's got a really nice
it's
voice.
hard. It's easy with a child, I think, because the second, I don't know, if you got a young child at home, he just brightens your day. I forget about everything else, and I never want him to think for 1 second that I'm abandoning him. So that's very easy when I'm with him. And it's hard because, your family can be the first thing you put aside because they're not, holding holding your neck or whatever.
Well, they're the quickest to come back too.
Yeah, the quickest to come back. But it's trying to find a balance. I've tried to get better every year that I've done this job. But it's a hard balance. I think I try and make sure that I'm a B dad, B plus A dad in the off season, and maybe a C plus B minus dad husband in the regular season. You just got to know that it's going to come in waves and things like that, and they understand. They understand the trade deadline's always around Halloween when so they want me home for pictures and things like that, and I'm working on a TJ Hawkinson trade or something like that, and. But you got to put a smile on your face. You got to be in the moment and present. I've been pretty good about that in my life, just from my previous experience, having experience not taking work home with you. But this job is probably more than that than I've ever experienced. And I'm not going to lie. There's certain times that some stuff falls through the cracks, and you just count on the people in your life to forgive you and help you work to get better.
And thank you for the candid, very vulnerable answer. I appreciate that. Okay, so a couple to close here. When at a National Football League facility, it's always cool publicly to discuss betting with a general manager. The Monte Carlo simulation.
Yep.
Okay, that's the betting bit. Never forgot it when you set it into the season. Taking or declining bets on players. It's like the football version of pass or the don't pass line. And while the bets aren't settled, you've had a fair amount of them here for 7 months now. I want to begin with an under-the-radar guy, Jihad Ward. And here's why. I mean, he doesn't have a tackle this year. I thought he had one in the last game, but they gave it to somebody else. But he has like 7, 8, 9 pressures. Yep. And then you watch things back, and he's like, I don't know, how to define the linebacker, weak side Sam, that whole thing. But he's like taking on guys and blowing things up to help somebody else. Yep. So like Jihad Ward, what have you liked?
That's a position where, again, we talk a lot about versatility in our schemes, and he's an incredibly versatile player. Can stand up on the edge, be a big edge setter, but he also can move inside and rush the passer. Can be a key cog in our games and stunts and different things like that. And you talk about he's got pressures, he's got a few batted passes. Yeah. He'll also, it's like a pick and roll player. He'll set the pick. Maybe somebody else will get the bucket. He does that in our stunts and different things like that. So also the character, the person. I don't know if you've been too close around him. He's a Philly guy, so I get along with him. We joke about Jones and different things like that. But he's an incredible personality to have on this team. We're excited. Again, a team is this complex organism of different parts and roles, and he fits one for our team.
Andrew Van Ginkel.
Love Gink, man. That's somebody that, when we first got here, Flo had told me about. And, as a general manager, you're always learning. And I think getting to see his defense for a year, then going back to watch Gink and seeing, okay, this is why this guy thinks he's so valuable, and just really appreciating his skill set, the person. Again, he's talking about versatility. I thought, some of the stand-up linebacker stuff he did at the end of the Detroit game really helped us kind of stem the tide a little bit. The batted pass, it's just he has a. He's like a, not to always use basketball analogies, but like, one of my favorite players growing up was Stacey Ogman. And just the type of guy who would have 5 steals and, 4 rebounds.
Plastic man.
Yeah, plastic man. He was never going to have 20 points or whatever, but he'd always make incredibly impactful plays when he did, and filled up a stat sheet. That's Van Ginkel to me.
We're going to need more time next time. Damn, man, we're almost up on 20 minutes. That's unbelievable. Okay, I got to get this one in, man. We'll talk about the players next time with the Monte Carlo simulation. Because I want to close with a common thread. It's important to me, and I think X's and O's, hopefully you. Vikings at Rams Thursday. The boom is at 7:15. What do you remember about venturing to Los Angeles in 2022 and interviewing Kevin O'Connell to become the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings?
Man. Oh.
I knew it was emotional.
No, it's a great one. Takes me back. So, obviously I'm only a couple weeks into the job,
right.
and I wasn't in the first round of interviews. So first and foremost, I had to catch up. So I watched all the Zooms and took my notes and different things like that. And I had worked with Kevin before, so I knew a little bit about him. But I watched the Zoom and I was blown away. Same as that. I mean, obviously I wasn't there in person, but you're like, man, this guy is incredibly intelligent, just emotionally available, and all those different things. So I'm on the plane, just excited to meet him and reconnect with him. I didn't know if you even remember that we worked together or whatever. So then I get on the plane and I have a pretty detailed kind of interview process where at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out what it's going to be like to work together. So might as well try. So I kind of have these questions and really scenarios where we sit through and talk football in a certain way that's really going to be our job together. And so we did that for a couple hours, and it was cool to have an audience, right? So Andrew Miller's there watching, and Rob's watching. And,
that's great.
And they're watching us talk about make a quarterback decision together. Yeah. They're watching us. He's explaining to us a play, and you get to see what's really deep in his mind. I think people call it play callers, and it's how they think. It's how he builds plays from players, schemes, different things like that. It's an incredible. There's a play on my board right now that we ran a couple weeks ago, and you just see a bunch of squiggly lines. But the 30 minutes that he explained that, you leave that being like, man, I'm so glad that this guy is the leader of this organization. So I just remember going through that process and just being blown away by it. And because he was such a relatively unknown commodity, that was the only thing that made it hard. But when I went and took my notes, and I have a way of taking notes, I was like, well, that was exactly, there's answers that you put in your answer key that he's saying the exact words.
Right.
And you're like, there can't be a better signal than what he's done, than what he's did. So really, it was just going through that and just talking to the group, and everybody was blown away by that. And also, not just by him, but our working relationship, that they could tell what it could be. And so the decision was pretty clear, but it was good to get on a plane and meet him and sit there in L.A. They were getting ready for the Super Bowl, so that was an interesting dynamic. Never forget the phone call to when we offered him the job. And, again, we'd met before, we'd worked before, but just the type of person he is. And I said to him, I only want to do this once, man. And he said, man, I only want to do this once, and I want to do it with you. And that's a cool moment to have. And again, just through the 2.5 years together, just continually proves to me the high caliber person he is, the high caliber thinker, football mind. I think this organization is lucky to have him.
You are spectacular, and the organization is lucky to have you, at least in my estimation. Thank you for the conversation, and we're out here on Tuesdays. You know that.
No music conversation.
Well, I mean, you opened up about children, and I teased you about Max Crosby, and so we went. What we did, we had some audibles. You made Jihad Ward sound like the NFL version of Julius Randle. I wanted to go on that. Stacey Ogman, Pasadena High School. I actually know him and his family.
That's incredible.
There's so many ways we can go. So I'm going to let Sam Newton and Jeff Anderson know every single Tuesday when we're here. If you just want to stop by and chill on the therapeutic Davenport of love, we're here for you to talk about the Monte Carlo simulation, okay?
Always.
And
always
believe it or
enjoy
not,
it.
I talk like that all the time.
My guy, PA.
Good
always.
to see you.
Good to see you.
Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, we thank him for the good times. Likewise for everybody here at TCOPC.